What's going on, my fellow basketball sickos? After sweeping the Pelicans, the Thunder had to sit back and watch and wait on the Clippers and the Mavericks series to finish, and well, the Mavericks finally closed out the Clippers in 6, and now us fans get the gift of another great second round series in these NBA playoffs. This one has not been hopped up as much as the Nuggets and Timberwolves series, but it could turn out to be better because of the clash of the two MVPs and because of the star power with Kyrie and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. It could be a really good series. So let's do an in-depth preview of this series and discuss the key factors for each team and their path to moving on to the Western Conference Finals. So let's start with the one-seeded Thunder. They are the youngest team to win a playoff series, so obviously that means they were the youngest team to sweep a playoff series, and that whatever they do from here on out, they will also be the youngest team to do. So they are going to try to keep defying the odds and proving history wrong, because history says that inexperienced teams do not win in the playoffs and can't win in the playoffs, so they're going to have to continue to prove that theory wrong. But in their series against the Pelicans, they were simply the better team from top to bottom, especially with the injury design. And I'm not saying that to take anything away from them, but because sweeping a series is still impressive, because considering they are the only ones that did it, the Celtics, who were the most talented team in the league, were playing a Miami team that was ravaged by injuries, and they still weren't able to pull off a sweep and gave up one game. So the fact that they did pull it off was pretty impressive. But the reason I say all that is to say that while it is impressive to pull off that sweep, this Dallas Mavs team is levels better than those Pelicans. So this is a huge step up in competition. They're going to have to raise their level of play to match that. And there's some key factors that they are going to have to do to be successful in this series. So I'm going to discuss a few of those, and these are in no particular order of importance. But the first thing that they must do is Chet must establish his presence as a rim protector. Unlike the Pelicans, the Mavs have two players in Luka and Kyrie that constantly put pressure on the rim, so it's going to be huge that Chet, as well as the other bigs, are able to protect that rim. And the thing that makes Chet so good and so great as a shot blocker and as a rim protector and the back line of the defense is that his ability to not only block shots is great, but the way he is able to contest shots at the rate he does without committing fouls and getting in foul trouble, especially at his age and getting used to how they let you play in the NBA. The fact he's able to do that is the most impressive part. But he will be challenged even more in this series because of the greatness of Luka and Kyrie, as well as their bigs and Gafford and Lively that put more pressure on the rim when they're running their pick and roll as lob threats. So when they involve him in the pick and roll, and even when he is a help defender that's having to slide over, he is going to have to be really good at the timing aspect of it, which he is, and he's proven that he's been able to do. But they need to keep Kyrie and Luka away from the rim, because even though they are good in the mid range, it will be key that they make it extremely hard for them to get those easy looks at the rim, and that obviously starts with Chet for the most. But he cannot do it alone, and that leads me into my next key factor for this Thunder team: the matchups of whoever decides to guard Luka and Kyrie. I assume Lou Dort will get the matchup of Luka at least to start the series and see if he can handle him. And that means that SGA or J-Dub will get the matchup on Kyrie. And as far as the Lou Dort and Luka matchup, Luka has averaged 32, 11, and 10 versus Dort in their 7 career matchups, which is a bit concerning. But who does Luka not do that to, and who does he not put those type of numbers on? So the way I look at it is his job in this matchup is to try and make things as hard as possible for Luka and make him work for everything, and ultimately just try to be physical on him to wear him down and to begin to frustrate him as this series goes along and they get deeper into it. But I would like to see him, just for game plan wise, I would like to see him picking him up 94 feet, make him turn a few times before he even gets it across half court, especially on that bad knee that's bothering him that he hurt in the Clipper series. And if he don't decide to bring it up, that means that he will have to let someone else bring it up, which means that he is not initiating the offense, and now he is off ball that would give a chance for Lou Dort to deny him and make it hard for him to get it back. And then as far as the matchup for whoever decides to guard Kyrie, whoever it ends up being, the job is about the same. You are not going to stop him, so make him work, be physical on him, try to frustrate him, and try to force him into something that you are willing to live with. You got to give up something as a defender, and they need to decide early on what they want to do, whether it's the mid-range, whether it's the three-point shot, whatever they want to give up, that's what they need to decide and make sure that they do give that up. So to help Chet out in the back line, these perimeter defenders need to do their best to keep them away from the rim and make them make nothing but tough shots throughout this series. And they will do it, but can they win a 7-game series making nothing but tough shots? And then speaking of making tough shots, the third key factor is the continued great play of Jalen Williams. He has been great all season, was in the most improved player conversation, and he has continued that level of play into the postseason so far. And with the level that this Dallas defense has been playing at right now, his contribution to me is and more important than ever now, because they will need some creation, some shot creation, and some scoring outside of SGA if they really want any chance to win this series. So those are my key factors for the Thunder, and I think they will do a good job of trying to check off those three off of the checklist, and many more things that they're gonna have to do to win this series. On the Mavs side of things, in the same way that the Thunder got to play the Pelicans without Zion, they got to play the Clippers without Kawhi. So they're both coming off of series where they should have won and were heavily favored to win due to injuries, but they also, just like the Thunder, Mavs showed flashes of how good they can be. And starting off, I think it's really safe to assume that Luka and Kyrie are going to show up and are going to play well. But in order to beat this Thunder team, who is a step up in competition, just like the Mavs are a step up for the Thunder, there are three things that must happen outside of Luka and Kyrie. The first thing is they must establish an inside presence. The reason the Mavs have been so good after the deadline was because of the acquisition of Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington Jr., who have given them more of a presence on the inside. So them two, Gafford and Lively, specifically must make their presence felt on the inside. And when I say inside presence, I mean dominating the glass, protecting the rim, and scoring as rollers and as lob threats, because Luka and Kyrie are most effective when they have a roller whoever it is decides that they can provide some scoring out of that rolling spot, because it puts more pressure on the defense and allows them to have more space to operate. And then on defense, these bigs must further expose that the fact that the Thunder have not been a great rebounding team all season, and they've been near the bottom of the league in that aspect. So they need to attack the offensive glass, and then they need to get as many extra possessions as possible and just prevent them from getting any offensive rebounds. And that will help them win the possession battle. They also need to continue to protect the rim, because the Thunder as a whole, as a team, they collectively put a lot of pressure on the paint. Part of their identity is getting paint touches and driving and kicking. That's a key part of their offense. So rim protection is going to be huge in that aspect. And then expanding on the defense and protecting the rim, their connectedness and their intensity on defense is another key, because defense is going to be the key in this series. While they may have faced some offensive struggles because of how good the Thunder's defense is on that side of the ball, they will figure things out on that, and I trust that Luka and Kyrie will figure out the offense. But their key is the defense. That's what's going to win them this series, and that's what's going to separate them, and it has been since the trade deadline. The reason they finished the season so strong was because of that defense. It was at the top of the league. Matter of fact, I think it was one in the league for the last 20 games, and it has carried on into the playoffs. In the series against the Clippers, it was clear how connected they were and how bought in this entire team was, from Luka and Kyrie all the way down to the last man on the roster, and it definitely showed. They held the Clippers under 100 points 4 times out of the 6 games. But as good as their defense was, it will be challenged even more against this Thunder team. And while I'm talking about defense, I just want to take a second to give Kyrie his flowers and talk about him for a second. He is playing some of the best basketball of his career on both ends of the floor, and has really been the leader and emotional heartbeat of that team in these playoffs. There were numerous times where he had to be the one to get them going on making some plays on the offensive end, or getting a steal on defense, or just making a hustle play. And he did that numerous times throughout that series, and he has been really great in this playoffs, and has kind of proven the world wrong, the people that have started to doubt him, and showing that he's a great teammate, he's a great player, and that he's a winner. So I'm looking for him to keep doing that and keep proving the haters wrong. And then the third key for the Mavericks is Luka and Kyrie must control the pace of the game. This is something I usually don't have to think about with this team, because, especially with Luka, but with SGA on the other side of the floor, who is just as good at dictating the game and just as good at dictating the pace of the game, it will be another key factor in this series. Luka and Kyrie must control the pace. They need to speed it up when it needs to be sped up. They need to slow it down when that's necessary. But they must force the Thunder to play their style of basketball and control the whole game and the flow of the game, because those young bloods and those athletic legs that they got on the Thunder team, you don't want to get into a track meet with them, and you also don't want to give them the freedom to use that athleticism out in transition. So those are the 3 key factors that the Mavs must focus on to win this series. They must establish an inside presence, they must continue their great play on defense, and they must control the game. So as I narrowed it down to 3 key things for each team, there are many more factors that will affect this series that I did not have time to talk about in this video, but us basketball fans are in for another great battle in these Western Conference playoffs. Both of these teams are coming off of dominant first-round wins and playing some really good basketball. Both teams are led by MVP candidates who are looking to etch their name further in the upper echelon of the league. So this is going to have some great games, some great performances. I'm sure it will have some drama and everything else that we love to see as NBA fans, and I cannot wait. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out some more of our content.